Hey there, and welcome to the A.D.K channel. I, of course, am Dave, and with me, as always, is Kirk and Andy, and we have James from the wonderful band Denali. Welcome to the channel.
Hi,
Yes, welcome to the channel. We saw you a couple of Sundays back headlining Heat 1 of Metal to the Masses, and you guys were freaking awesome. We all really enjoyed that set, and I'm not a Doom guy, and I even enjoyed that set, and that's saying something, as Andy and Kirk will pretty much agree with me on that one. We've got some questions for you. We're going to go through those in a second, and Kirk and Andy have got a lot more detailed questions, but we have to get the first few things out of the way. So the band name Denali, well, what's it about, and why did you pick it?
Okay, so Denali is the name of a big mountain in Alaska. Most people know it or have heard of it, even if they don't know that specific name, because until a little while ago, it was called Mount McKinley. So you've probably heard it referenced in films and stuff like that. But Denali was its original name in its native tongue. So when we were putting the band together, trying to come up with names for what we consider to be a fairly heavy band, we thought, what's pretty big and heavy? Mountains, it turns out, is a good answer to that. And we sifted through a few things, and Denali just sat right. It seemed to feel right, sit well with the sound, and yeah, I feel like it's kind of, we wear it fairly well as a name.
It does actually really does suit the music and the band. It's I didn't know anything about the mountain thing, but it did. Whenever you like Denali, I'm like, it feels weighty. It feels momentous, if you like. Could you take us a little bit through the history of the band then? So, especially if you've had lineup changes, so take us right back to the beginning when you guys formed.
Right. So, I suppose as far back as the idea of the band, that probably goes all the way back to maybe 2017, 2018, at which point the idea of the band came together from me speaking to Jimmy Long, who used to play bass for Everest Queen, now plays bass for Orm, the excellent drone band. And he and I were talking about doing essentially a band that was in the style of early Catatonia and stuff like that. And we planned this for ages. We never really got it together. It wasn't until the lockdown in COVID, and I ended up with a bit of free time, so I wasn't working quite as much. And I thought, right, okay, what shall I do with this time? Well, it seems like a good time to start putting these Doom ideas together. And I wrote a few bits and bobs, a few demos, started putting them together, and then the kind of style shifted as the ideas were put through the filter of my brain, and it became a bit more death doomy in the traditional sense, or maybe slightly more modern sense, is probably fairer to say. And it was once I had a couple of songs down, I then presented it. Jimmy was on board at that point. I then immediately, when I put the music together, I could hear Ross King from Countless Skies. I thought, right, this guy's voice would work. So I presented it to him, said, what do you think? The Countless Guys and I have been friends for a while, and he was up for it, which was great. Through that, we then had a conversation a little bit later on with Nathan Robshaw, who plays drums for Countless, and kind of hooked him over to the dark side. And then through conversations with Jimmy at the time, because he was still with Everest Queen at that point, we then spoke to Adam, showed him the demos, and he said, yeah, great, I want to be on board. And that was the nucleus of the band. And when we actually came to start putting it together for live and thinking about recording, Jimmy has quite a young family, and he was finding that being in several bands, and that didn't quite add up in terms of time management. So he wanted to strip back a couple of things, and so he decided to discontinue with Denali, at which point, funnily enough, I'd just been talking to Simon Marston, ex of Cerberus Unchained, local fans will remember, and now currently, subsequently rather, He's playing live bass for Everest Queen in the lieu of Jimmy leaving that band as well. And I just said, hey Simon, what are you doing musically at the moment? He said, oh, not a lot. I said, how about some Doom? And he enjoyed it, joined, and then it's kind of gone from there. And we're now in what? We've been together playing live about a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. So, yeah.
Awesome. Andy, you had some questions.
I do. I've got a couple. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us. We've talked at length about the songwriting. You informed me that the ones that are on the first EP were yourself. You created the music and the lyrics. I was just wondering, you treated us to a couple of new tracks on your performance, the other Sunday. Did the other guys contribute to that at all? Is it more of a band effort when it comes to writing the new material, or is it down to you still?
Yeah, there's certainly more of a collaborative edge to it. I still do the bulk of the songwriting and orchestration, stuff like that, but certainly there's a lot more input from the guys now that they've sunk their teeth into stuff. As you say, the 3 tracks on the original EP were, although there was input from the other guys and we kind of shifted things around, they were pretty much written when the other guys joined, so we kind of just put that all together with their expertise. But the newer stuff, certainly one of the songs we played the other day, the main melody and quite a lot of the stuff was written by Ross. Actually, it was a song that didn't quite work for Countess, and he was playing me some demos one day, and I said, Ross, I want that. Can I have it? and I took it away to my cave, tore it to pieces, slathered it with a layer of Doom, brought it back, and it's, frankly, I think that's now one of our stronger pieces. Ross had a real good ear for a melody and a hook, while still being very, very heavy. So that's certainly true. And yeah, there's something that happens when you have members of a band rather than working on it as a single person, where their influences, even if you're still doing the bulk of the writing, kind of just suddenly shade how you do things. Like, I will think I know how Nathan likes to play drum beats, what sort of cymbal work he likes to do, so that will inform how certain sections are put together. I will start thinking, right, okay, I want Adam to be playing this, so I'll leave some space for him to create a part for himself rather than writing everything more prescriptively. Same bass, I think, right, okay, I know that Simon will noodle, so I give him space to noodle. Lyrically, it kind of works the same as it did on the EP, where essentially I come up with the narratives of the lyrics, kind of brain fart it onto a piece of paper, hand it to Ross and say, can you fix this, please? So that's essentially how it comes together. Is that an adequate answer? Yeah, so it's still majorly me as principal songwriter, but there's a lot more of the other guys in it now.
I had another one. Again, I probably told you this from the first EP. Catafalque is my absolute favourite. There's not many days go by that I don't play it. What is? It's not a word I've ever come across. I don't know if I'm even saying it right, but I suppose I could look at Google it, but I haven't. What does the word mean, and what's the theme of that particular song?
You're putting me on the spot here. From memory, a catafalque is a device that's used in shaping or creating a coffin. Essentially, that was a term that was said to me by Jimmy when I was first writing that song. I think that was actually the first song that was written for Denali. Aside from a couple of crude Catatonia clone demos that I threw in the bin fairly quickly. Okay, so the narrative behind that song and how it relates to the title, it's the premise is that the protagonist has returned to his home and found his family slain by some sort of mysterious a nefarious enemy, and basically goes out into the world to seek revenge in its bloodiest form. So essentially, the reason that it's catafalque is because he's seeking death for himself and for his enemies, like the death of his soul, the death of the people he's seeking, the death of his will to live. Once he's completed that, he will no longer have anything to live for. And it kind of explores that darkness throughout the lyrics of that. I'm not sure if we've ever actually published it. I feel like maybe we should, because I do feel like it helps the storytelling of the songs. All of the songs are very much storytelling in the lyrical approach. So yeah, it's kind of it's to do with that abandonment, hope, and that's kind of the way that the songwriting works as well. In that song in particular, you have, aside from the intro, the song essentially mirrors the beginning and the end are a mirror of each other, with an exploration in the middle, and that's supposed to mirror the despair of the objective and the result of his search, if you will.
Thank you very much. Kirk, is there anything you'd like to ask James?
Yeah, let's talk about Bloodstock. So you said the idea, the genesis of Denali is born in 2017, you and Jimmy Edward Long. And then obviously we have COVID-19. So was the live Denali debut 2022 then at the Metal to the Masses last year?
We played I think our first gig was at Ballstock previous September, where we were just kind of, I think we opened the Friday night at Ballstock.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And that was very much us figuring out how to do what we wanted to do live. And then a few gigs throughout that winter before the Metal to the Masses gig.
Yeah, let's put it in perspective then. So you make your live debut in 2021 at the Ballstock Festival in Baldock, Hertfordshire. And then a year later, you're playing the New Blood stage at Bloodstock. So tell us a funny story backstage, anything that happened. What was it like playing such a major festival?
I'm not sure if there's, I mean, it depends if you find petrifying nerves hilarious or not. It was incredibly hot that weekend at Bloodstock, as anybody who went knows. It was unbearably hot. So very much the day that led up to that, because we played on the Sunday, which if I could have chosen, I would have liked to have got it out of the way earlier in the week. So we were all pretty cooked by then. Very much the day of that was trying to manage your temperature, trying to make sure you were in a fit state to turn up and be professional. Because, you know, it's a huge opportunity. It's the biggest crowd we've played in front of. Certainly as Denali, obviously Countless Skies have had some success and played the safest thing. But we took nothing for granted. We understood that we were, I think that was our 8th gig or something like that with Bloodstock. It was ridiculous. And it was very, very, not nerve-wracking, but focusing of the mind. Didn't help that when we went on stage, we had some issues setting up our click track as well, and our backing, because normally we know most of the venues around here. We know how to set these things up. You know, we hand an XLR to our sound guy, and he chucks it on the desk, and then ready to go. But what had happened was just before Bloodstock, they decided to limit the amount of radio devices on the New Blood stage so that it wouldn't interfere with the main stage. And we suddenly had to rejig our setup for a couple of weeks of the gig, test it, and then turn up. And that was the first gig trying it out. There were a few issues, getting closer and closer to the time we were on stage. And I could feel the eyes of the sound man burning into me as I'm fiddling with the notes. We managed to get it together with like 1 or 2 minutes of that. and I managed to pull it all off because we were getting pretty nervous at that point as well, because when all your songs are 10 minutes long, you can't just like fudge in a little bit, an extra song, or not. That's a fairly significant section of your set. So, but it all came good in the end. I feel like the crowd were amazing. I remember being on that stage, and just focusing on getting on with my job. That's what you should do. And then I looked up halfway through the set and realised just how many people I was playing to, and it was fairly humbling. And I had to kind of do a double take and snap myself out of it and get on with what I was doing.
So talk us through that. That day. This is why, in some ways, I'm pleased that I'm not a musician, because I wouldn't be able to tour, because during the day I just want to drink alcohol, which you can't do because you got to play in the evening. You said you played on the Sunday. What did you arrive on the Friday then, or the Saturday, to watch the great bands?
Which day did Machine Head do the secret set? Was that Friday afternoon?
I think that was Friday, wasn't it? So you were at that then for when they.
Yeah. So I turned up. I just got into the campsite, dumped off my stuff, wandered in to find out who the secret band was. Looked at the Sophie stage and thought, do you know what? I'm not cramming into that tent. So I went and set my stuff up. So I got there on Friday, and so I had about a day less of managing the heat than most people who were there. Even so, it was difficult because like you say, your first instinct when you go to a festival is get wrecked, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you can't do that, can you? On the Sunday?
Well, not on the Sunday. No.
What time were you on stage on that Sunday?
I feel like it was 7:30 or something like that. It was.
Yeah. So you've got a whole day where you can't have a drop of alcohol, really, can you? Maybe like 1 pint or something.
Yeah. So you could maybe have a pint in the middle of the day to steady your nerves, but most of the time you're concentrating on being hydrated, because as anybody who's been anywhere near stage lights knows, you don't want to be dehydrated in front of that many people when it's that hot and you're standing on the stage, because you're there doing a huge gig and you want to give the best performance you can. So to chance that, it does focus the mind. I would have loved to have had a bit earlier in the day, but I was very much thinking about what I was doing later in the day.
Describe the relief when you come off stage. It sounds like you didn't even need to win the crowd over. They enjoyed it from probably from the first song. Can you describe to us what is it like when you're coming off stage? The adrenaline. What did you do in those 2 hours after that? After you've played this monumental festival, which clearly is going to be a memory you're going to take to the grave, isn't it? So what was it like once you could settle down? How did it feel?
It was a strange feeling, I admit. Finished the set, looked around, thought, right, we did it. Walked off the stage. Bizarrest thing, because obviously we're used to local gigs, so moving all our own kit. By the time I got off the stage, said well done to the guys, turned around, all my stuff was on the ground next to me because the roadies had moved it. I thought I could get used to that. And then we'd had a photo taken from the drum riser, the crowd behind us at the end of the set, and the chap who'd taken that came over and showed it to us, and it was at that moment that it really, really hit me, seeing the whole crowd with their horns in the air behind us, that I really realised that we just played quite a lot of people. And Killing Joke came on halfway through our set, and not many people walked away. So I felt like we'd done all right. And then there was a flurry of getting our stuff out of the back of the tent, walking back to the car park and all of that nonsense. And then you could breathe. And it was, I don't know, it felt surreal. It felt like it was, like it almost hadn't happened. Because all of a sudden, all my stuff was back in the car park, and I was a punter again. And I was just like, I'm not sure how I feel. The stranger thing of that was then I spent a few hours being a punter, and at the end of the night I had to go to the merch tent to pick up our merch box. And then I did feel like a rock star. So I was just waltzing through all the barriers around the back of all the tents and all this, and they were just saying, "Oh, an artist, yeah, no worries." But yeah, a very strange feeling. It took probably a few days to actually consume the whole experience. Because it was wonderful. Like, we also got the opportunity to see our good friends in Tribe of Ghosts who won the Brighton Metal to the Masses, see them play. Of course, the guys from Musk Hill who won Hitchin's own Metal to the Masses. Yeah, it was a real, I don't know, it was a great sense of camaraderie and just a bizarre but thoroughly enjoyable experience. Like I say, if one you takes you great.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's not, I'll never experience it because I'm not a musician, but it's great to hear someone else describe that. Dave, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Okay. So we just have the last question we ask all our artists. Is that even a word? It is now. But we are going to ask you this final question, which is, what's the plans for Denali for the rest of this year?
Right, okay, so I don't know when this is going out to publication. We've got one more gig this month, which is this coming Saturday, the 25th,
is that?
5th, yeah, 25th of March. We're playing in Cambridge, supporting a Killer are doing their album launch, I believe. Another great band we're good friends with. And so we've got that, and then we've got a bit of a break because Count the Skies are going on a European tour with Mull, which is incredibly exciting for those guys. It's going to be amazing. And Everest Queen are playing a few gigs, but inclusive of Desert Fest, which again is amazing. So we've got a slightly enforced break for that. But we're not really planning on booking much through the summer because now we're in album writing mode. We're looking at full length number one. I'm in the thick of doing, the donkey work of putting together an entire album's worth of our type of compositions, which is a fairly lengthy process doing that sort of songwriting. I've probably got about half of it written so far, but it's probably going to take me a good chunk of the rest of the year to get the rest sorted. And we're no guarantees, but the hope is that we'll be in position to record it in autumn, winter this year, looking at a spring 24 release. So what we'll probably do is, once we've got a bit more material of that solidified and learned, possibly in the recording process, try and put together some sort of tour or just string of dates later in the year to kind of show off some of what we're doing. Obviously, there's a couple of new songs in our set already, but we'll be wanting to show off our shiny new toys as such, and try to build some hype ready for when it is going to be released, and then look at how we're going to go about the launch of that, what we need to put into that, where we need to go with PR, gig booking, stuff like that, just to make sure that, as all bad, we're not egotistical. We just want to see it as many people who are going to enjoy it, to experience it as possible. So we want to try and be fairly smart with how we go about that for our debut.
Can I just ask on that point then? Sorry. So you're talking about launching it. So if you did get approached by Season of Mist or Slot Records or even somebody like Nuclear Blast, what would the sentiments be in the band? Oh, we want to stay DIY, or yes, let's take a record deal.
I think it would depend on the terms being offered, obviously, but I don't see, if it was an attractive deal, I wouldn't stay DIY for my own sense of pride. If it was going to help us and it was going to be a sensible thing to do, then absolutely we'd jump on board with one of the big boys, as long as there weren't any strictures as to what we were doing.
Yeah,
we'd take the support if it came.
Makes sense. No, good to hear that, because a lot of artists who do want to get signed are just like, they just think of the name and they're not really thinking about what could you be giving up, what could you be handing over in terms of publishing rights and a cut of merch sales. So it's good to hear that it would have to be a good deal and it's not the be all and end all for you, is it?
No, it would have to make sense. Obviously we're none of us little kids with stars in our eyes. We know what we're doing in terms of music. We would, like I say, if it's beneficial and it's going to help us grow the audience, then it might be worth it, but it would very much depend on the terms. Sure.
Excellent. Well, that's it for today. I just want to say a big thank you to James from Denali for obviously coming onto the channel, having a chat with us about all things Denali. So from myself, Andy, from Kirk, and I guess from James, just a big thank you for everyone for watching. Check out Denali. I'll put some links in the description down below, and thank you very much for watching.